Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny here, and I'm reading today from Mark chapter 1, verses 10 and 11. And just as Jesus was coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens torn apart, and the Spirit descending like a dove on him. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, the beloved. With you I am well pleased." This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. This is, the Epiphany has happened. We celebrated Epiphany Sunday this past Sunday, and in the season after Epiphany, these 6 weeks between Epiphany Sunday and Lent beginning on Ash Wednesday, which is February 14th, we are going to be rooting ourselves in the presence, practice, and invitations of Jesus. You know, a few months ago, I was doing this webinar thing, and I heard the teacher was talking about and showed this graphic that talked about how the rate of change in recent years has become so great. In other words, change is happening so fast lately that it is faster than our human ability to assimilate that change, to adapt to that change, to comprehend it all, to let it all in. Once I sat with that a little while, at first I was like, it took me a few minutes, but once I sat with this, I actually felt relief. Not because change was happening so fast, but because it helped me make sense of some of the reactions that I have in me and also that I see around me to the amount of change that we have been experiencing. It was relieving to me because it's not just that I'm getting older or less agile or less eager to change. While some of that, of course, is true, that's not the whole story. It's not just me or us, right? The world is changing more rapidly than we can keep up with, than we can be expected to keep up with. And that just helped me kind of put it all together and make some sense of things. Now, because of this, and because I know that change is hard, even when it's slower, right? Even when change is coming at a kind of reasonable pace, change can be really hard, especially when change is kind of thrust upon us, or things are evolving and changing in ways that don't feel like they have anything to do with what I'm doing. Like, it affects me, but I'm not affecting that change. And so as we were reflecting on this as clergy and with other groups in the church, we decided we needed to root ourselves in something that is steady and secure. Now, what we often do as human beings in this kind of situation, when change becomes a little overwhelming, is that we tend to try to grab onto something steady. But what we tend to grab onto is the familiar, the comfortable, the things that we are used to, the ways that things used to be that was kind of the best of what we remember, right? We all have different kind of golden eras of some different aspects of our lives, right? I remember this time when my kids were this age, that was just the best. Or I remember when church used to be like this. Wasn't it wonderful? Couldn't we go back to that time, that kind of experience? For many of these things, these were things that when we felt like we had some kind of management of the whole thing, right? We had a sense that we could handle it all. We might have even had a big hand in making it what it was. But whether we did or we were just recipients of it, it was nurturing to us and it was helpful, and it holds a place in our hearts and our minds that is beautiful and that is really important to us. And yet, part of the hard truth of our world is that we can't go back to those same places. The world will never be exactly what it was in whatever golden era we have in our experience in these different realms in our lives. So what do we do instead? What's a different way to approach this? Well, we can always look to the steadiness and steadfastness of God's presence, of God's love, of the invitations that Jesus gives us, and the practices that Jesus and the church at its best have continued to teach us and help us live into those. And to do this together, Because when we do this, when we continue to root ourselves in these things, these aren't just for our comfort, although that can help, but it's also for the flourishing of each other, of the community, of the church, and even the world. So last week, we talked about hospitality as a practice and how challenging that can be, and how crucial it is and was to Jesus' ministry. This week, we're talking about baptism. It is Baptism of the Lord Sunday, and I do invite you, as I always do, to try to remember or to know or find out about the moment of your baptism, if it is one that you don't have actual memories of. But whether we have actual memories of them or not, of that baptism or not, we are invited to remember our baptism. We're going to have an opportunity to reaffirm our baptism on Sunday. But when we talk about remembering our baptism, we aren't just talking about those memories of it, of the event. What we really are talking about is remembering that we are baptized and continuing to live out that baptism in ways that help us to thrive and in our relationship with God and one another. Our baptism is full of powerful meaning, and when we allow that to take hold and root and to grow and to bear fruit in our lives, it makes a huge difference. In fact, it's so core to who we are, our identity, that we come back to it at least every year. But every time we have a baptism, every time we tell stories about this reinforces that we are first and foremost God's beloved child. With us, God is well pleased. These words that were spoken over Jesus by the Holy Spirit are not just words for Jesus. It's through Jesus and our baptism into Jesus through the Holy Spirit and in the name of the Father as well, that we get to claim those words for ourselves too. But there are so many layers of baptism. I wonder for you, what is resonating for you most? Is it the way that baptism connects you to a faith community that has helped you to be nourished and to know your belovedness? Is it the forgiveness aspect of baptism that helps you know that you are forgiven and that, yes, we are going to keep straying from the path, we are going to keep sinning, but God is continuing to do a transformative healing work in us, and our baptism claims that for us. There are so many parts to our baptism. I've just named a couple, but I wonder for you, what meaning does your baptism have for you? How do you see that coming into your life day to day? Or if you don't at this moment, how is God inviting you to claim that baptism, to live into that baptism, to know that you are baptized, and to let that be lived into day after day? Friends, it is an invitation to you to come on Sunday. If you have not been baptized and you're watching this, or have somebody in your life that hasn't been, this is also an invitation for you to consider that as a next step in your faith journey. I'm happy to talk with you about that, as would any pastor at the church, Pastor Skitch or Pastor Taylor. We would love to talk to you about that. And know that a newcomers group is starting on the 21st. We have a new small group that's starting, a seasonal small group that's starting this coming Sunday. There's lots of invitations for you in this email. I hope that you will join us. I hope that you will connect with our congregation in whatever way you're being nudged to this new year. Know that it is such a joy to be on this journey with you. Know that you were created for joy. You are God's beloved. You are enough because God is enough. Thanks be to God for that.